Welcome to Maritime Conversations by Meluha Maritime. We are your hosts, Palak and Arjun, and together we continue on our mission to explore India's maritime domain through perspectives rarely seen and seldom heard. In our previous interview with Commodore Singh, if you've seen it, the Commodore had mentioned that one of the submariners' roles also include insertion and extraction of commandos. That got us thinking as to how commandos would operate from a submarine, which brings us to today's episode where we interview a former Marine Commando of the Indian Navy. We welcome Commodore Vijaypal Singh Rawat, VSM retired, a highly accomplished Marine Commando. An alumnus of NDA, he completed his clearance diving course and became a MARCO in 1991 and went on to pursue higher defense management course in Indonesia. As a Marine Commando, he has conducted live operations and commanded a MCF unit in the eastern seaboard. Some of his other commands include INS Guldar, which was extensively deployed for post 2004 tsunami relief ops in Andaman, and INS Gomti, a guided missile frigate. He has also been directing staff, Naval War College, and remained the longest serving principal director, special ops and diving at NHQ. Well, that's quite an introduction, sir. And I'm sure there's lots to you, much more than we've already told our audience right now. But let me begin by asking you our first very, very basic question that I'm sure everybody wants to know. Could you tell us why does the Indian Navy require its own special forces? I mean, what is the role? What is MARCOS?
Actually, Marine Commandos is the special forces element of the Indian Navy. Like the other two services who got their own special forces entities, the Navy felt the need of having Marine Commandos primarily because of the security threat they envisaged, which could actually manifest in our oil rigs, which are located at a distance of 80 to 100 nautical miles from the Mumbai area, and now also in the eastern seaboard, 30 to 40 nautical miles away from the eastern coast. So now what happens is that we are all aware that India is a oil dependent country, and we are actually oil importing, one of the largest oil importing countries in the world, where we are only able to make about 21% of our oil from the oil reserve which we have, largely in the Bombay High region and the Krishna Godavari delta. So now what happens, we have a huge amount of oil rigs there, and these oil rigs are quite susceptible to action by inimical forces to India, in terms of people could actually do some terrorist activity there. They could actually take people on, they could take people on hostage and create nuisance value for us, and they could also damage and destroy these kind of oil rigs. So now the Navy in the 90s, in the early 80s, thought of a plan how to circumvent this developing threat. And towards that, they decided that we must have a rapid deployment force which could have the capability of doing flushing out operations, or today it's called anti-terrorist operation, hostage rescue operations, and also can also be like a deterrent force for any inimical force even thinking of doing this kind of things to us. And that was the primary reason as to why the Marine Commandos, or initially called the Indian Marine Special Force, were formed. But there is a precedent to this, because in the 1971 war, if you recollect, the Mukti Bahini was also trained by the naval clearance divers. Now, earlier the naval clearance divers were the one who also did commando activity, like what was seen in the 1971 war. And thereafter, what happens? The Navy did not really have the need for doing any kind of special operations. So that is why the clear diving officers and the sailors were not, consolidating their commando skills, and they were focused more on diving operations, salvage diving operations, and some of them became saturation divers and deep sea divers and all, for submarine rescue and other deep water salvage activities.
Right. Well, yes, that's quite interesting. You know, I'm sure not many know what MARCOS do. What is the role? And I'm sure Arjun, you too have some more following questions regarding this entire thing that we're talking about.
Thank you very much, Palak. Sir, you mentioned about how clearance divers were giving training to Mukti Bahini during the 1971 war. Right. So, towards that, sir, if you see, you have also completed the clearance diving course. So, could you tell how does one become a Marco in the Indian Navy?
So in my time, everyone had to, even today also, everyone had to be a diver. So there are two varieties of divers in the Navy. One is called the ship divers, which are largely restricted in activities which is relevant to a warship, underwater checks, and all these things. And so the training is only about 2 months, and they only dive in the air diving set, and they have a limitation of depth limitation of 35 meters. There is another lot which is called the clearance divers, like us. I was a clearance diver, which training is about 8 to 9 months, and we do a lot of combat diving operation underwater, salvage. We have a depth limitation to 55 meters, and some of us graduate into becoming saturation divers and all. So this is the clearance divers. In my times, firstly we had to do the clearance diving course of 8 to 9 months. Thereafter, as part of the clearance diving course, we had to do a 1 month attachment at the infantry school Belgaum to do the basic infantry commando course. After that, we were selected to shortlisted for being volunteers for the Marine Commando course, and the Marine Commando course in my time was about 14 to 15 months. So you see that it was the whole preparation from the scratch to become a Marine Commando was pretty long. So when I was the principal director special operation diving in 2012, a decision was taken that we must actually make this course a bit more modular and make this course contemporary as per the contemporary standard of the world. And as a model, we had the US Navy SEALs course, which is about 6 7 months, and they had three distinct phases. The first phase is the diving phase, and the second phase is the land-borne phase, and the third phase is the special weapon and tactics phase. So this is the model actually we based our latest Marine Commando courses, and let me tell you that these courses are very well received, and the output which you have out of these courses is excellent.
Right, and in fact, since you're talking about all this interesting stuff, I also heard, rather, is it true that Marcos can also operate from a submarine? I mean, what are the different modes of deployment? How does one actually operate from a submarine and, through smaller boats or crafts? How does that happen? So,
So the Marine Commandos are a four-dimensional force. The first dimension is the land dimension where most of the war fighting takes place, land, including the coastal areas. The second dimension is the surface of the sea, where you can utilize the surface of the sea for transiting from place A to place B or to the objective area and then exfiltrate from there. And that is done by using either on a surface craft or high speed crafts or underwater or ships, and also largely a craft of opportunities. And then you have an underwater phase where you can actually propel using underwater craft. We have specialized craft for the Marine Commandos, and then you can also go by submarine and do underwater operations, basically launch and recovery from a submarine for trying to go to a target area and do the activity and come back and get recovered by the submarine. And of course, the fourth dimension is the air dimension, where we use skydiving or paratrooping or even helicopter, heliborne operations and all. So these are basically the four methods, those four dimensions in which the Marine Commandos operate. And you asked specifically about the submarines. Yes, we do something called as special boat section operations from the submarines. And I will not tell you as to what all can be done and how it is done. Suffice to
yeah.
say that we actually sail on board a submarine, and let me tell you, life in the submarine can be really exhausting and really tough. And whenever I've sailed on board a submarine for launch and recovery, I mean, it is very mind-boggling, and I didn't want to stay 1 minute extra inside a submarine.
Well, I'm sure it has its challenges, and it really is something that one cannot fathom, or the kind of work that, of course, all our forces do, but the special forces and the Marcos, and of course, people inside the submarine certainly is a big challenge. Arjun, you have more questions.
Sir, since we spoke about submariners, we also understand that, in the other branches of the Navy, usually life is mostly pre-planned. Like, that you have to, your shift time is at so and so time, and you have to do watchkeeping or whatever it is. But how is the life, or if I should say, how is a day in the life of a Marcos? Like, is it predictable or unpredictable? Because sometimes the threats just come out of thin air. So could you tell us what it is like to be a Marine Commando for a day?
See, the life in the Navy as such, like in the life in the Army, is not very predictable. But what happens fundamentally, the routine is generally well set, unless there is some exercise or activities which are other than the normal. For and the same thing also goes to service on board a warship, and there also, while people don't know much about service on board a warship, but let me tell you, having commanded two warships, having served on board warships in the junior ranks, it is pretty tough, and of course is very adventurous, because although there is routine, there is exercise planning, everything is there, but then a lot of things come up, turn up, which is unplanned, and then that is where the challenge lies, and that is the way how you circumvent it, which actually talks about your training levels and your efficiency and operational, and as well as professional efficiency. Coming to the Marine Commandos, a normal day of a Marine Commando starts at, let's say, about 6 o'clock in the morning, where everyone comes for physical activity. We start with PT, and it's quite a grueling kind of PT for 1.5 hour, and sometimes there is also a long swim for about 2-3 miles, and followed by a mud walk, which is basically mud crawl, which happens for about half an hour. And you do a lot of exercises, basically 1.5 to 2 hours to just keep yourself physically fit. Then you go back, and then you come back to office around 8:30, and thereafter you are doing depends upon the teams. Some teams are doing demolition activities, some teams are doing some kind of field training activities, some teams are doing unarmed combat, some teams are doing firing activity. So it's not that everybody is doing everything, because there are so many skill sets. Marine Commando got a lot of skill sets, because we are a four-dimensional force. Obviously the skill sets have to be that much more. So you could perhaps be doing a battle obstacle course, training for about half an hour, followed by firing for about 1 hour. That is reflex firing, or you can go to the kill house and do again reflex firing, just to hone your skills about hostage rescue operations. Or you can go to a rappel tower and do rappelling. And sometimes the helicopter comes, and because helicopter is a prime commodity, and it doesn't come every day, so it will come maybe 3-4 days in a month or something, and we have to finish. Everybody is sitting rappelling, and all these activities seem to be very simple, but if a small mistake here and there can lead to severe fatalities, and that's why we have to keep on rehearsing it. And then of course we have classroom sessions when new equipment is inducted, or training on that, or some communication equipment, and safety precautions for everything. And then this goes on till about afternoon, and then in the evening we have compulsory games where you have to play football or volleyball or some kind of other activities. Sometimes you also have karate or taekwondo or some kind of hapkido, this kind of activities. It goes on to about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. Then twice in a week we have night diving. This is one. Sometimes one team is also doing diving operations, because underwater diving is something which is very challenging, and you have to do diving for about 2-3 hours. Then some people are also doing underwater craft operation, like as I mentioned to you, we've got underwater scooters, we've got specialized underwater craft. So we have to pilot the craft, and it's a skill by itself. It's like a normal aircraft underwater. So you have to have a lot of skills, and you have to update your skill set on the regular basis. So these are some of the activities which happens for majority of the sailors and young officers. As far as the excuse me, as far as the officers become senior rank like commanders, then obviously life becomes very boring, because there's more of pushing files and talking about plan activities, HR management, and all these things. So life becomes very boring after that. The most boring life is of the commanding officer, because he has to sit and go to the headquarters for meetings and all, keeps on listening to what CSO ops is telling him, ordering him, and make plans for all the activity which happens on a monthly basis, weekly basis, daily basis, and all this kind of things. It's not very, very, very encouraging. But yes, for young officers, when I say young means lieutenant commanders and below, what I told you is the normal activity.
Well, I'm sure, and that sounds extremely interesting. And like you mentioned, it would be wrong to say that Marcos is an all-rounder. You're doing any and everything possible. So, would you be able to share some anecdotes with us? While in your service as a Marco, is there something that that would be interesting to know?
Actually, there are a lot of things, but offhand, difficult to remember. But yeah, I'll tell you, when we're doing when you're in the diving tank doing diving course, and there was one activity where you have to, it's a 10 meters diving tank, and you have to go down wearing a diving set to 10 meters, and at the bottom you actually unmask and remove a diving set and keep it at the bottom, and thereafter you have to come up without a diving set, and thereafter you have to take a deep breath and then go down to the bottom and search for the diving set and pick it up. So that is one activity which is obviously you can make out. When I say 10 meters means about 33 feet. It's not very easy for anybody to go to that depth after taking a deep breath and then going and searching for equipment. So when you're doing that, when you're searching for the equipment, firstly, the tank is not very clean, so you can't really see beyond 1 feet. And then there are instructors underwater. They shift that set here and there, and then you are like, you're at the end of the breath, and so that kind of issue happens. So there was one of the occasions where there was another activity happening where go along with a buddy and go underwater 10 meters and you do buddy breathing. That means there's only one diving set being utilized by 2-3 people to breathe. So when I take a deep breath, then after I give it to my buddy, he takes a deep breath, then I give it to my third buddy, he takes a deep breath. So that day there were two people doing the activity, me and one of my coastmates. And what he did is that he switched off my cylinder, and which I don't know, and then he took a breath and gave me one breath. And once I took a breath, and he just swam away from there. And imagine we have tied with a buddy line, and the buddy line went under our ladder. So when after some time I looked around for him, I called him, pulled him back, "Bhai, give me the air to breathe," and he was just he didn't give me. Just he was trying to play pranks. He also didn't realize that the buddy line has actually got foiled up with the ladder underwater. And so when I try to escape, so because now it has become like a pulley. So I'm trying to go up, but he's going to pull me. So I was not able to go up. And soon he realized that there's some problem, and he finally gave me this air to breathe. Then I came very close underwater to him, and I punched him nice and proper underwater. So that's one interesting anecdote, but it could have been dangerous.
Yes,
If he had
absolutely. And I'm sure all these things sound funny now after many years have passed, and fortunately, nothing has gone wrong. But it really is. I mean, times like those could be really dangerous. It could be a matter of life and death in seconds, for sure. But very, very interesting to know, and I'm sure there's so much more to know from you. We really, Arjun, if you have more questions, please.
Sir, you of course you spoke about your experience during training, but I believe you've actually seen some combat when you were a Marco commando. So, if I'm not mistaken, you were part of an interdiction mission off the coast of Madras when in the early 1990s. So, could you give our listeners or viewers a little perspective about what it is like to conduct these special operations in the high seas?
Actually, that's one operation which I really can't talk about because of obvious reasons. But I can tell you that we all are geared up for doing operations on a regular basis. Our day-to-day activities, when I told you about all the activities, which is a day-to-day thing which happens in all Marine Commando unit, we have to be prepared at each and every time to be deployed within 30-minute notice. So now, since the skill sets are so wide, so everybody cannot do everything. So what happens is that there are some people who specialize. I mean, everybody has got a basic specialization, but some people specialize in, let's say, intervention, maritime intervention activity. Some people specialize in underwater activities. Some people specialize in demolition activities, like that. And it's all these specialization are only temporary in nature. Means after 2-3 months you can change. You can be some other team, like that. So any eventuality like this, when I remember distinctly for that operation, we were playing cricket on Sunday. It was a Sunday, and then suddenly we got a call from the ops room, and our CEO was called. At that time, he was an officer in charge. He was called, and then he went, met with the chief of staff, and then he rang me up from there. I was the second senior most guy in the unit, and he told me that be prepared. We have to be airlifted by evening for some activity which is going to happen down south, and we didn't know much about the activity, so we no, we were confident because what it could be activity at sea, so we have to be prepared with our boats and submachine guns and our sniper rifles and our demolition stores and all, and everything was prepared, and we flew down in the evening to the place, Minambakam airport, and thereafter from there we went for the briefing, and later on we went for the operation, which was successful. So let me tell you, when you're doing this kind of stuff, it is so routine sort of thing, mechanically done. It's a muscle memory which takes on. You don't really feel anything. You feel that it's a normal day-to-day activity which is happening. And only when you hear enemy fire at you and some sound of it, then probably realizing down that actually you are at war or you are in a conflict. Otherwise, it seems to be a normal practice, when you're in a kill house firing or in a firing range, you're firing here and there. Means you're not firing here and there, but you're firing, running one part and then actually rolling and firing on the other side. That's called move and fight drill and all. But it really doesn't feel anything that you are actually being deployed for something.
True.
Well, that's a kind of skill set that is, I would say, very difficult to build, because, as you say, the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. So I guess that clearly, sort of reflects in the kind of description that you've given here. So now, transitioning from that, now, of course, most of the listeners that we have are people who are either aspirants for the Navy or any of the armed forces, or just outright people who are not part of the uniform. So as a Marine Commando, what are some kind of helpful tips in which you can, you would suggest to people so that they can build their mindset, or rather say, build a commando-like mindset and set out to accomplish the goals that they set for themselves?
Actually, you can't really segregate between a Fauji officer or a Marine Commando. I would rather say that you have to be very clear about the objective in life. What do you want to do in life? You have to be very clear about it. And they have to have focus attention, and you have to strive to be as far as possible perfect so that you can achieve the target. That's number one. Number two, you have to be develop punctuality. You have to develop self-discipline, and self-discipline is more important than imposed discipline, because imposed discipline will happen at home by parents, in school by your school teachers, in the academy by the academy staff, and also in the Navy by or Army Air Force by the people who are senior to you. But those are all imposed discipline. What is more important is the self discipline. And for self discipline, it is very important for you to realize that there are certain things which are do's and certain which are don'ts. And those do's and don'ts, a clear line has to be, a distinct line has to be drawn between these two, and you have to keep on practicing it. And once you keep on practicing it, you realize that it is not very difficult for you to achieve it. And once you achieve self discipline, then I think you have won half the battle. Then the other thing is that you should be academically sound. If you're not academically sound, and if you're not physically fit, then I'm sorry, you won't be able to give a try, give a shot at becoming an officer in the armed forces. So these are some of the traits: camaraderie, bonhomie, listening to other people, being a very good conversationalist, having being able to listen to people and try to logically solve issues, be very helpful to people. Those are the kind of stuff which are something which, they are traits which you pick up in school and colleges, and then you have to build on that, consolidate on that. And these are some of the skills which are very, very essential for you to join the armed forces. And the same kind of skills then later on can also be utilized for people in the Marine Commandos or any other kind of specialized service which are high risk in nature. And there it is more, particularly if you're talking about the emotional intelligence, you're talking about the what you call self confidence, you're talking about the camaraderie, the bonhomie. These are all very, very important in small unit operations where the risk factor is very high. And but then it is an offshoot of what are the skills which are required to become officers in the armed forces.
Well, sir, thank you very much. That really helps us understand, the officer-like qualities, as you call them, and I guess these are also general things that any normal person can, take from you and improve their lives and become better citizens of this country. So, that being said, sir, thank you very much for joining with us today. I understand that you're a very, very busy person, and you've taken time off your busy schedule to be with us and share your thoughts and experiences. With that, dear listeners, thank you very much for tuning into Maritime Conversations today. If you like this episode, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment to Meluha Maritime on your favorite streaming platform. We are active on YouTube and Spotify, and you can also follow us on our socials, that is Instagram, X, that is formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn. So until next episode, we are your hosts, Palak and Arjun, signing off. Thank you. Bye bye.